Hello people of the internet, it's Amanda, and for today's video, I'm here to talk about a new J-drama that landed on Netflix recently. I'm talking about Burn the House Down, or Mitarai Ke in Jusuru. Now, this has a powerhouse cast, and I think that's one of the reasons why when I saw the trailer, I was immediately intrigued. It stars Nagano Mei as Murata Anzu, Suzuki Kyoka as Mitarai Makiko, Kuso Asuka as Mitarai Kichi, Nakagawa Taishi as Mitarai Shinji, Tsunemata Yuri as Murata Yuzu, Kitanuki as Kureya, Kichise Michiko as Murata Satsuki, Oikawa Mitsuhiro as Mitarai Osamu, and so many more. Now, when I saw the trailer of it, it definitely has this kind of like revenge plot type of thing. I was really curious as to how that's gonna work, because obviously with J-dramas, if you're pretty much used to the genre, revenge dramas aren't really that, banking on a lot of like explosive reveals, plot twists, stuff like that. It's very different from like if you're used to K-dramas or even Filipino dramas in a way where it really pushes the idea of revenge, of like these crazy plot twists and all of these other things bordering on like rage and anger and all these things. With Japanese dramas, what I've noticed is that it's definitely a lot more melancholic. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, melancholic, and there's definitely this sense of there's a mystery to it, and it would definitely grab your attention, but still at the same time, like, there's a sense of melodrama in it that is definitely dependent on the viewer whether or not they like that. And yeah, that's basically what we're going to be discussing in today's video. With that said, let's just get to it. So basically, the plot revolves around the Mitarai family. They're a very well-off family, and they've run a hospital for generations and generations on end. So they're really doing well. However, one incident really changed their lives, and that is when their entire house burned down. Now, fast forward to 13 years later, the older daughter of the family, Anzu, enters this new household where their new house is now currently built, but her father already remarried, and she's trying to figure out the truth about what happened 13 years ago, whether or not it really was her mother who caused the fire or was it someone else. And that's why she entered as a housekeeper with a different identity, a different persona, trying to figure out, the mystery that has happened. So yeah. Now, that's basically the premise of this of this entire series. What's funny about this is I think a lot of Asian families would relate to this idea of, how when moms, whenever you leave the house, they always ask if they've turned off the stove or something like that. The idea of this is pretty much the same, simply because of the nature of what happened in the drama, and like the pivotal moment as to how it affected everyone else, because that was the reason that is being pointed out, is that their mother left the stove, caused the fire, and so because of that, their parents divorced, and yeah. Now, but the interesting thing about this is the person who their father remarried is actually an old friend of their mother's who used to be not well off. She has 2 sons from her previous marriage, so they got married into the new family. But in 13 years, their father didn't really have contact with Anzu and their sister and their mother. Their mother is currently suffering from amnesia because she's trying to suppress, the negativity that surrounded that entire ordeal 13 years back. So they're really struggling, and the purpose of Anzu is basically just to uncover what really happened 13 years ago, because again, the person who is now living the life of her mother used to be her mother's friend who is not that well off. And yeah, so that's basically it. Like, she's trying to figure it. They peg it as a revenge drama, but overall it's really not like that. In my opinion, like if you're pretty used to Korean dramas or even Filipino dramas where when we're talking about revenge plots, there are definitely a lot of like plot twists. It's bordered on like rage and all of these other things are like conniving different ideas so that they can get back to the other person in this massive manner. The point of Burn the House Down isn't really like that at all. Like Anzu's purpose was to take back like a couple of things that used to belong to her mother, and also at the same time just for these people who are responsible for what happened to them to apologize to their mom. And that's basically it. It's kind of like clouded and shrouded with this entire idea of, will she get caught? Will she like, would she be able to like fool these people that she's trying to fool and stuff like that, and everything. But that's basically just the main source of the thrill of it all, but it's not that big. Where and I think if you're used to J-dramas, that wouldn't be a problem, simply because other stories that bank on this type of kind of like suspense, like for example Dearest or Saiai, which is also on Netflix, Yakou Kanransha, which I've talked about in a previous video before, which also stars Nakagawa Taishi, also has the same effect, where at the end of the day, even if there's a revenge suspense thriller narrative, it still borders on melodrama, a melancholic type of plot, centers on family, friendship, relationships, all of these things, and don't really focus much on revenge in a way that, you know, you completely destroy someone, you know. And that's just how most J-dramas do it, at least most J-dramas that I've seen so far. So if you want something that's really, really like explosive or anything like that, like very similar to like K-dramas and stuff, you probably wouldn't enjoy this. But if you're looking for just something that would hook you, I ended up enjoying it simply because every single episode, it keeps me guessing as to what's happening, like what's really behind all of these things, but not to the point that, you know, it's really gonna put you at the edge of your seat kind of thing. So it's not like that. It will keep you engrossed enough to end and to reach until the end of the 8 episodes, in my opinion. And it's quite an enjoyable watch. But again, if you're looking for something that's super crazy with all these kind of like plot twists, really not this type of show. I think what really carried this one is the performances. Nagano Mei, she's like, I'm very used to her playing these like really sweet, helpless type of characters who has this kind of like grit to her, but then at the same time, like, you know, like that's her overall vibe for me. Like for example with Sanin Igumi, or like for example Daytime Shooting Star, you know, these kinds of roles. She has this like really sweet face as well. So seeing her in this kind of role, it's nice because it doesn't look out of place for her, simply because, again, as the narrative suggests, it's not the revenge type of drama where she's gonna do all these like extreme things. It's not like that at all. Like, she puts a sense of bravery and at the same time vulnerability to the character, which I feel like is effective. Kuso Asuka, he really was effective in this kind of role as well, but I'm not sure, like, in my opinion, like, he seemed to be I don't know if it's more of just something, but yeah, I feel like he did well in terms of how he portrayed his character, but I'm not sure if it's just the way that they drabbed up his character in a way, but he looked too old for the supposed age that they're trying to pose him as. But maybe again, it's because of like the entire styling and how they want to make his character seem, because he's a shut-in. Nakagawa Taishi, when, like, as usual, I know that he's a good actor. He's such a versatile actor with just small nuances in his face acting. There's definitely a shift in the way he portrays his characters, even in other dramas. For this one, absolutely loved the way that, like, especially in this one particular scene near the end, he did so good in terms of portraying the emotions of his character, and the way that, you know, he's trying to like share this part of himself to the audience. It was such a beautiful scene to watch because he did such a good job in there. Kichise Michiko, I absolutely love her. I love her so much. I'm so used to her playing a lot of like really badass characters. She usually sports short hair, but for this one, she sports long hair. She's also pretty vulnerable in this one, playing Murata Satsuki, which is the mother of Nagano Mei's character. She's absolutely beautiful. Every time she's on screen, I just can't help but like think that she's so beautiful. And yeah, just generally, I absolutely love her. I love seeing her in this softer role, especially since, yeah, as I mentioned, I was pretty used to like seeing her in a lot of like badass roles, the most memorable one being the one in Miman Kisatsu. And then obviously there's also Suzuki Kyoka, who is kind of like posed as the main antagonist of the drama, but then at the end of it, not really. Like, she definitely gave her character a lot of like layers and complexity. The way that she portrayed, you know, she's not just this evil woman who wanted to get this kind of like different life for herself and for her sons, but she also has this kind of like twistedness to her, a certain vulnerability, a certain fear to her character, something like that. Like, obviously, again, because it's such a powerhouse cast, they delivered really, really well. I'm laughing so much because Oikawa Mitsuhiro, every time I see him in a drama, I know immediately not to trust the character that he's playing. He's kind of like that character in every single drama, where you know that if this actor is playing this character, chances are they're not as trustworthy. And it definitely shows here as well, like, but it's not very similar to like the other characters that he's played as well, so really shows how much of a nice actor he is also. But I'm so annoyed with this character, and that shows how effective he is in playing his character as the father figure in the entire narrative. But yeah, I mean, overall, it definitely has some choppy aspects to it. Like, there's a lot of like questions, like all these things, and again, I think like with J-dramas, sometimes they don't really bank on a lot of complicated things to like explain stuff. You know, things just happen as it is, and that's the driving force of the narrative. And as someone who's watched a lot of J-dramas, I'm pretty used to that kind of storytelling anyways. And it really helps in a way to, I mean, the present events, they're already as complicated as they are. And I think adding more layers or adding a lot of complicated backstory and stuff like that, that would really ruin the experience. And given that there's only 8 episodes, I like that we're able to like focus on just 2 main narratives, which is what happened in the past and what's currently happening in the future, as compared to, you know, branching out into this so many different subplots, which is really, really nice. Should you watch this drama? Again, if you're looking for something that's entertaining, but not in a way that's like super explosive, if you're up for something that you wouldn't compare to like revenge dramas from like other countries, like how they do it with the whole like crazy twists and all these things, you should definitely check this out. This is really, really entertaining for me. Like, the 8 episodes flew by so fast, in my opinion. The ending was kind of like so-so for me because, again, as I mentioned, it's still a bit more melancholic, melodramatic, as with most J-dramas, like, but overall, like, the entire flow of it is really, really nice. I like that, you know, again, I like that it has a very steady narrative, despite the fact that there's very choppy details here and there. It definitely delivered an entertaining viewing experience for me, and at the end of the day, like, it didn't feel like I wasted my time watching it. And with that said, like, those 2 factors, I highly recommend this one. I highly recommend as well that, you know, there are a lot of J-dramas out there. It would definitely shift the way you view suspense thrillers or you know, these kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, I really, really like it. The performances are really, really good. It really brought a lot to the table. And yeah, so with that said, tell me down in the comments below, like, which J-dramas have you seen on Netflix so far? Any recommendations? Do you like this drama? Have you seen it? Are you planning to see it? Everything down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you again soon in a new one. Bye.